In the vast and endless expanse of the galaxy, few planets were spoken of with the same reverence, fear, and caution as RE112, a death world, a hostile environment with gravity twice that of Earth's, unbreathable air for most species, and an ecosystem so aggressive that even the most advanced alien races avoided it. It was the perfect embodiment of danger, but for the humans, it had become home. The alien coalition had underestimated humanity once before, and now they were paying for it. They thought that if they could control the Deathworlds, they could break humanity's spirit, forcing them into submission, but instead, they fueled something far more dangerous: humanity's wrath. General Kareth stood before the command table in the sleek, metallic command center of the Galactic Coalition's flagship. The war was not going as planned. They had expected humanity to surrender within months, but years later, the war had not only continued, it had escalated. Reports from the front lines on RE112 showed staggering casualties. The coalition had sent millions of their finest troops to secure the planet and break the human will, but few ever returned. "We've thrown everything we have at them," Kareth growled, slamming his fist against the table. "How can they survive under such conditions? That planet is practically a graveyard." "It's not just survival, General," replied Commander Vather, his eyes scanning the latest battlefield reports. "They're thriving. Every day, they push back our forces. They use the environment, the beasts, the poisonous air. They've turned the planet itself into a weapon." Kareth's dark eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. "Impossible. No species can thrive on a death world like RE112. "They aren't like us, General," Arthur replied grimly. "The humans have always adapted to survive. They've lived on worlds harsher than we could imagine. RE112 is no different to them. If anything, it seems to be a reflection of their nature." On the surface of RE112, Captain Sarah Ryder watched the enemy dropships descend from the storm-filled sky. The coalition forces were relentless, sending waves upon waves of soldiers to die on the hostile surface, all in a futile attempt to break the human defenses. But she knew better. Humanity had been hardened by deathworlds like RE112 long before the war had started. The gravity made them stronger. The dangerous flora and fauna sharpened their instincts, and the hostile environment had forced them to innovate. What the coalition saw as hell, the humans saw as home. Her radio crackled, and she heard the voice of her second-in-command, Lieutenant Marquez, cut through the static. "Captain, more dropships incoming. They're bringing in heavy artillery this time." "Good," she replied, a cold smile crossing her face. "They're walking right into our trap." Sarah motioned to her squad, a mix of grizzled veterans and fresh recruits, all bearing the same hard expressions. They had been born on deathworlds or trained in conditions no other species could survive. For them, this was just another day. The coalition forces landed in the valley, deploying their towering war machines and armored battalions. They believed their superior numbers and technology would secure the planet. They always did, but as soon as the ground rumbled beneath their feet, they knew they had made a mistake. A series of controlled explosions rocked the valley. Human soldiers hidden in the high cliffs activated traps they had set days earlier. Massive boulders tumbled down, crushing enemy machines and soldiers alike. The coalition's artillery never got a chance to fire as the humans rained death from above. The alien soldiers fought back with precision, but they were unprepared for the sudden onslaught of RE112's native creatures. Massive, reptilian beasts, attracted by the noise and movement, tore through the battlefield, attacking anything in sight. Humans stood back, knowing how to navigate the chaos, while the coalition forces were decimated by the very environment they had failed to understand. Sarah led the charge, her soldiers moving like ghosts through the thick foliage. The human advantage was not just their ability to adapt, but their rage, their unrelenting refusal to be conquered. Every loss they suffered, every fallen comrade, fueled their wrath. This was their world, and they would defend it with everything they had. Kareth stared at the battlefield footage in disbelief. The coalition forces were being annihilated by the humans again. He turned to Vather, his voice trembling with frustration. "Now, how can they continue to fight like this? Every species has a breaking point. Vathar's gaze was cold. Humans don't break, General, not in the way we understand. They endure, and when they've lost everything, when they're pushed to the brink, they fight back harder than before. Kareth was silent, watching as the coalition forces retreated from RE112, broken and bloodied. The humans didn't pursue. They didn't need to. Their message was clear. This war would not be won through force or numbers. The humans would never surrender. Captain Sarah Ryder stood on the battlefield, watching as the last coalition ship fled into the sky. She clenched her fists, feeling the weight of the world beneath her boots. This was more than just a war for survival. It was a war for humanity's future, a future they would take with their own hands, no matter the cost. "We'll send them a message," she said softly, her voice carrying through the ranks. "Let them know that RE112 isn't just a death world. It's our world, and we are the wrath of humanity." Her soldiers stood tall, their eyes burning with the same fire that had fueled them since the beginning. They were no longer just survivors. They were warriors, forged in the crucible of a death world, and they would not be stopped. Humanity's wrath had been unleashed, and the galaxy would never forget. The retreating coalition forces left behind a world of silence, where once the valley had been filled with the sounds of battle. There was now only the distant wind and the faint roars of RE112 wild creatures. Captain Sarah Ryder stood with her squad, watching the remnants of the enemy flee into the sky. Her face remained impassive, but deep within, a storm of emotions brewed. "They'll be back," Marcus said, walking up beside her. His helmet was tucked under his arm, and his eyes scanned the horizon, as if expecting another wave of coalition forces to descend from orbit. "Of course, they will," Sarah replied. "They don't understand what they're up against. They think they can't break us with more troops, bigger machines, or better weapons, but they don't realize the war has already turned against them." She looked over her soldiers, bloodied and battle-worn but still standing. There was something unbreakable about the human spirit, especially here on RE112. This planet, with all its dangers and hostility, had given them the edge they needed. Humanity had become more than just survivors. They were the architects of their own future, even if that future was built upon the ruins of their enemies. High above the surface of RE112, within the cold, sterile halls of the coalition flagship, General Kareth was losing control. His anger festered as the latest battle reports filtered in. The human resistance had been underestimated at every turn. He had to stop this now, or it would be his head on the line. "The humans continue to defy us," Kareth shouted, slamming his fist on the command console, sending holographic projections flickering. "No matter how many soldiers we send, no matter how much we bombard the cursed planet, they only grow stronger." Vathar remained calm, standing beside his furious general. "The humans have adapted to RE112 in ways we could not anticipate. Their ability to not just survive, but thrive in such a hostile environment is unmatched." Kareth turned, his eyes burning with rage. "Then we must change our strategy. We need something more decisive." Vathar raised a brow. "Are you suggesting?" "Yes," Kareth growled. "We will no longer fight on their terms. We will cleanse RE112 from orbit, burn the entire surface to ash if we must. Let's see how they fight back when their precious planet is nothing more than a scorched wasteland." Back on the surface of RE112, the skies began to darken, not from the usual storms that regularly plagued the death world, but from something far more sinister. Sarah and her squad immediately sensed it. The coalition was about to unleash something catastrophic. "Captain," Marcus said, voice tense as he pointed toward the sky. "Look!" Sarah squinted, her eyes tracing the path of the coalition ships gathering in orbit. They were preparing for something large-scale, something far more destructive than anything they'd seen before. Her heart quickened, not out of fear, but because she knew what was coming. "They're planning to glass the planet," she said, her voice steely. "They're going to wipe out everything from orbit, including us." The squad fell silent, the realization dawning on them. Glassing a planet was the coalition's last resort, a method to completely eradicate all life on a world. It was a sign of desperation, but also of deadly precision. The planet's surface would be scorched, leaving nothing but ashes behind. "What do we do, Captain?" one of the younger soldiers asked, his face pale. Sarah glanced around at the hardened soldiers of her unit. Some of them had fought on multiple Deathworlds, and some had been born on them, but none of them had ever faced an orbital bombardment of this magnitude. She tapped her communicator, sending an encrypted signal to the underground human command center. "We need to evacuate the surface immediately. Head to the caverns beneath the mountain. It's our only chance." Marcus looked at her, his eyes filled with grim understanding. "Even the caverns might not be enough to protect us from a full bombardment." "Sarah." "I know," she replied, "but we have no choice. Get everyone moving." The coalition fleet, hovering ominously above RE112, began its preparation for the orbital strike. Massive cannons charged, ready to unleash fire upon the surface, reducing everything to molten slag. From the control room of the flagship, General Kareth observed the final stats of the operation with cold determination. "Fire on my command," he ordered, his voice like ice. "General," Vother interrupted, his eyes narrowing as new data appeared on the console. "We're detecting a significant energy signature below the surface of RE112. Kareth's eyes widened. "What is it?" "It appears to be some sort of massive underground structure. Human signatures are gathering there." Kareth's mind raced. Could this be what had allowed the humans to hold out for so long? Some hidden facility beneath the surface? No matter. It will all burn. Initiate the orbital strike. Deep beneath the surface of RE112, Sarah Ryder and her squad had reached the massive underground caverns. The human base was a sprawling complex, built over the years by settlers who had come to the planet long before the war. It was a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. They had built a fortress beneath the planet's deadly surface. "We're all in position," Marcus reported, "but if they hit us with full power, we won't survive down here." Sarah's mind raced. She had to think of something. Humanity couldn't lose this war. Not now. Not after everything they'd been through. She tapped into the underground communications network, sending a message to all human forces on RE112. "This is Captain Ryder. We're facing an orbital bombardment, and our survival is uncertain. But if this is our last stand, we won't go quietly. Everyone, prepare to fight until the very end. No matter what happens, humanity will endure. We're the wrath of this galaxy, and we will make them remember our name." As the message went out, the underground base came alive with activity. Soldiers prepared for the worst, engineers scrambled to reinforce the shields, and civilians huddled in fear, knowing the end could be moments away. The first wave of the coalition's orbital strike hit.